Hey everyone, good evening. Welcome to Mona's Kitchen. It's a special evening because we're getting ready for Passover. And Passover is great. It's always around my birthday. My birthday was last week, but I always think of it almost as a renewal. And you feel the sun and it's springtime and it's great. And I really, really love this recipe that I'm making tonight because I've probably made this recipe for at least 20 years. So it has a certain smell to it, a certain aroma that reminds me, yes, this is Passover. And also, there were always jobs that my kids did with me when I made this recipe. So I always have great memories of my kids. And unfortunately, my kids aren't with me for this holiday, but I think about them when I make this recipe, which is just so, so awesome. So tonight we're going to make a matzah apple kugel. And what a kugel is, it's typically either a noodle or a potato pudding, but we're going to use, hence the name, matzah. And so there's 3 steps to this recipe. One is getting the apples ready. One is making the batter, and the other one is preparing the matzah. So the first thing that I'm going to do today is to prepare the apples. Now you'll see over here, I've got this really cool gadget that my mother-in-law Terry bought for me. It's this really, really, really neat apple slicer, and look what happens. So you're going to take 3 apples for this recipe, but I'll show you how it works. But look at this. It kind of creates these nice, perfectly shaped, thin rings. I highly advise if you don't have one, maybe you want to get one. If not, just use a knife and just pare it. But what's really, and this was, I love using this gadget because this was my kids' job. Doug and the kids would always, they'll do the apples. So I'll just show you how it works because it's kind of neat. So basically you just kind of old manual crank and takes it through the apple. You put the apple on its end. And voila, look at that. Is that cool? I love this.
Slices, cores.
Slices, cores, dices, and it was always a great job. What's that? And
slices,
peels.
cores, and peels.
Yeah, and it peels too. So it slices, it cores, it peels. So it's really a great little gadget. You can get it on Amazon if you want, but it's super fun. And you know, I use this core for pears. You could use it for apples, but I really like that it does that. So what I'm going to do with the apples, I'm going to separate them out almost so they look like rings, kind of like that. And this is going to be our middle layer and our top layer for our matzah apple kugel. So I'm just going to separate these out right now. And actually, I think I might give this job to Doug now because he's just sitting here.
What do you want me to do?
Just separate the apples into rings. Get the guy to help me out, right? It feels like family. Doug likes to come say hi. Come on in.
It's on. Hey, everybody.
Hi, and I specifically want to welcome all of our Temple Share Tikva guys because I believe this is on live too. Hey, everybody. So while Doug's doing the apples, and he's doing an awesome job at it, I'm going to go to the next step, which is preparing the matzah. Think of the matzah almost like lasagna noodles, except it's matzah. So how do you do that? So what you do, you're going to break the matzah into almost like noodle-like pieces. So it's going to kind of look like this. So like each piece of matzah, you're going to go either into thirds or quarters. And yes, it's not going to come out perfectly every time. You'll get like little pieces like that, but don't consider it as garbage. You can still use it. But I try as much as I can to get the matzah to look like this. And all you have to do is kind of just break it, and it just becomes that way. Now you'll notice that it's kind of like wobbly. Well, how did that happen? So what you're going to do is you're going to take all your matzah, and I believe there were like 7 or 8 pieces of matzah in here, and you put it in your little pieces. Then you go over to the sink, and you put warm water over it, and you just run it over probably for a minute or 2. You don't want to get it so mushy that you can't hold it, but you want to get it to a point where it looks like noodles like this. And this is going to be our noodles for our matzah kugel. So and what's really cool though, when you put the water on it, the warm water on it, you get that smell of matzah. It's like, oh my God, it's Passover in the house. And it's kind of fun. So that's the second job. So your first job is to make your apple rings. Let's show everybody what the apple rings looks like because a few more people came on board. Come with your whole body. Come stand next to me and say hi. Come say hi to everybody. Everybody say hi to Doug.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Doug. Yay. Hi, Alice. Hey, Bob. Hey, Stephanie. So when you're done, you have your cored apples just like that. and you're gonna leave that at bay for a little bit. Now you've got your noodles, which basically you're gonna make matzah into strips, and then you're gonna put warm water over it so that they kind of look like this. So you've got 2 out of 3. And so the next thing is your batter inside of this, the good stuff that's gonna make your kugel just taste really, really buttery. Hi Alice, hey Doug, hey Mona. Alice says hi.
Hey, Alice.
So the next thing that we're going to do is to take half a dozen eggs. So I've got 6 eggs. I've already cracked them. No, I didn't get any shells in. And what I'm going to do, this is a secret that I've learned kind of over time, is that I like to make the eggs kind of aerated because that makes the kugel a little more fluffy. If you wanted to and you just wanted to use all egg whites, it would be a lot of egg whites. You'd almost have to use like 10 or 11 egg whites to equal the amount of eggs. You could do that if you want to, but I've seen that if I fluff up the eggs, it's really, really good. So I'm just gonna do that right now. And especially now with Corona, I don't wanna waste anything as I can, so I'm just using that half a dozen eggs right now. So I'm just gonna whip them up, just for like 30 seconds, so they become really, really fluffy. Really wanna get in those yolks, make sure that they get kind of fluffy too. And this is all an optional. If you just want to take a whisk and whisk up the eggs, you can. Whatever you want to. I'm just giving you the extra little tips that I do that makes the kugel just a little bit extra special. Okay, kids. So we've got it's getting really bubbly egg. So I'm just gonna stop it for a minute. Now, within the egg batter, you're also going to put in some butter. So it's 7 tablespoons of butter. If you're kosher and you want to use a vegan butter, you can do that. I know there's like an avocado butter or margarine if you choose to do that. That goes in next. And then the other thing that's going to go in is a half a cup of brown sugar. So I'm going to put right now. A little stuck. Okay. And then I'm going to put in a teaspoon of cinnamon. I love cinnamon, so. And then you're gonna take your beater and just beat that all around. And then you wanna get it nice and bubbly. So I'm just gonna get this light brown batter that's buttery, brown sugar, egg. Really, really good. Oh, one other thing that you're gonna add is some salt. Actually, when you combine salt with sweet, did you know that it enhances the sweetness, kind of like a caramelly kind of taste? So make sure you put in like a teaspoon of salt. So I'm just going to add that in and just give it a whirl too. Just for about 30 seconds to a minute. This is looking awesome. Perfect. Guess what? So now we have our 3 components ready. We have our matzo noodles, we have our little batter, and we have our apples, which is our middle and our top. One little trick that I want to tell you that I always used to forget to do, but now I don't, but I want you to be smarter than me, is that it calls for 7 tablespoons of melted butter. Do that melting of the butter about like 15 minutes. That should be the first thing that you do when you're about to do this recipe. Because what you don't want is the hot butter to go into the eggs, because if you do that, then the eggs start to cook a little bit and you'll get pieces of egg in this mixture. So you're better off, at the beginning of the recipe, I should have mentioned it right from the get-go, is that you take that butter and you put it in the microwave, or you heat it up right from the beginning and you keep it aside. Do your apples first, do your matzo noodles, and then do this. And by that time, the butter will have gotten cooler and it will go into the batter and you won't have any of that egg butter problem, okay? All right, so now we're ready to assemble. So what you're going to do is take your matzo noodles, and for those who just came on board, hey Neil, how are ya? Hi Amy, hey Mari, hey Alice. So we've got our matzo noodles, and for those of you who just came on quick, we've taken about 7 to 8 pieces of matzo. We've kind of cut them up into thirds or quarters. You really want it to kind of look like a little piece of lasagna noodle. And then what you want to do is run it over warm, very, very warm water for about a little bit less than a minute, and kind of soak it through. Make sure you don't get any like water kind of, and I like doing it in a colander because then the water kind of spills out. And you get these matzo noodles. So I'm putting these matzo noodles in my bowl here. Okay. And then I'm gonna move this out of the way because I don't need this anymore. And I can be close to you, which I like. And then I'm gonna get rid of my fun apple core, which I showed you before, which I highly advise for your rings. And what we're going to do now is that what you want to do is kind of separate these matzo noodles out, just like so. And you want to take this batter, which is the eggs, the butter, the brown sugar, the salt, the cinnamon, and just kind of smear it around. And yes, I've washed my hands, but what you're going to do, the best way I think to do is with your hands. Just make sure that everything gets covered. That's really, really important because that's what's going to make everything taste really good. And you're actually putting the eggs, which is the binder, the egg batter in the binder. So it's kind of like making your batter, your lasagna batter, your matzah kugel batter together. Okay, so it should look like this. Doug, you want to give it a little? Good job. Yay. All right. Okay. So now we're down to two things. So we've done our matzah. I'm going to wash my hands. Public service announcement. Happy birthday, which was last week to me. So wash my hands really quick. Okay. Good. And I'm going to grab my spoon. Okay. So what you're going to do now, you're going to take your pan that you're going to put in. I know during Passover I tend to use foil pans because it's just easier to clean. And for Passover, if you want to use separate dishes, you can do that. And I sprayed my pan with some coconut oil spray. So that works out really well because you don't want it getting stuck on the bottom. So what you're going to do first, it's kind of like a Kugel lasagna thing, is that you're going to basically... Oh, there's extra. Look at that. See, it got stuck in. I didn't even see it. Hold on a minute. Intermission. We're going to go smear it on. Now we're cooking. I thought I didn't have enough. Okay, good. All right. As I was saying, what you're going to do, you're going to kind of split this in half. So I'm going to put half of it to the side because you're going to make 2 layers in this kugel. So you're going to take the first layer and kind of bring it into the pan. And what you want to do is think like lasagna. Think of like noodles, spreading noodles out as best as you can across the bottom. And this is on a greased pan. You really want to make sure it's covered up. And I used about 7 matzahs. I'm just going to take a couple more. You don't want a thick layer, you just want more of a thin layer. See, I used one of the pieces. I didn't do such a good job, but that's good because it fills in some of the gaps.
It's like a little jigsaw puzzle.
It is like a jigsaw puzzle. Doug loves jigsaw puzzles. That one's a good one. Another little one. Okay. So you've got your first layer of matzah, okay? Who we're going to say hi to. Hi, Amy. How are you? Who else is on? Hi, Robin. How are you doing? And Amy. Oh, yeah, Amy is pretty cool. Then what you're going to do is you're going to make your first layer of apples. So you're going to take these beautiful rings that Doug separated for us. And for those who came on late, I used my favorite Gidgy Gadgy to make my apples slices. And basically what you do is stick an apple in there and kind of whirl it around. But you can also slice them if you want to do it that way. And or if you want to dice them, you can make a dice layer. But I like just having a fruited layer. So what you can do if you wanted to add... I'm not a big raisin person, but if you wanted to add raisins to this, you can. If you wanted to add walnuts, you can. I'm more of I think this just tastes so good with just the apples and cinnamon that I kind of eat it that way. But whatever you like. Okay, like so. So then you've got your layers. You put your layer on with your apples. Now, these apples, they need some love. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just going to wash my hands one more time. Sorry, got a little greasy. what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some cinnamon and a little bit of sugar and a little bit of salt, and I'm just going to spruce it up a little bit. So I'm just going to put a little cinnamon, and that's all based on how much cinnamon you like. If you like orange peel, you can put a little orange peel in. If you like ginger, you can put a ginger, whatever you want. I like apples and cinnamon. That's my favorite. And then I'm going to take 2 tablespoons of brown sugar and just kind of sprinkle it on like that. And then I'm going to take, I have an extra tablespoon of butter here, so I'm going to take half of it and just kind of dot it a little bit. Just a little bit. Not too much. Although Passover is full of good butter, I'll tell you that much.
Butter and eggs, right?
Butter and eggs, yes. And matzah. All right, so that's the first layer. And then the second, so it should look like this when you're done, see? And now it's time for the second layer. And so the second layer, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to layer out my matzah. And guys, if you see, like, all of a sudden you're making this, like, oh my God, I don't have enough matzah, don't worry about it. Just grab, and I'm not so sure I might have enough or not. Just grab another slice, put it under the water, save a little bit of this juice, soak it up, and it's no big deal. It's easy. You just kind of do it. Relax. This is supposed to be fun. I think it's fun. Do you think it's fun, Doug?
It's fun to eat it.
It's fun to make it too. It's kind of like an art project. It's like doing a puzzle.
A little construction.
Yeah. Doug, as you know, Doug loves construction. After building Audrey too, right? I'm cooking construction. He's technical construction. Great camera work, Doug. See, Doug, you're getting to be the best technical director ever.
New skill.
New skill. Corona skill. Doug's got a lot of skills, as everybody knows. Okay, and what are we gonna do with this juice? Okay, so we've made our another layer. Perfect. Just the right amount of matzahs, right? Hey Selma, how are ya? Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the juice. I'm gonna dry my cookie hands. I'm gonna take the juice and I'm just gonna kind of take it around. And I'm gonna get into the corners because you want the underneath for it to get the juice too.
That's Jewish gravy.
Jewish gravy. It's butter, butter schmaltz, or yes, sweet schmaltz. Okay. And guess what? What's the next thing we're gonna do? Can you guess? Yes, we're gonna put another thing of apples on top. Alice says, your next Mussar snack. Okay. That sounds good, Alice. I can make you a real one with noodles, too. Well, this is real, too. It's just a different kind of
Too bad I can't bring it to Mussar class.
Smell-o-vision. That's where we're bringing it to here from home. Okay, so apples. Type of apples. I like, these are Honeycrisp apples. I really like them. But if you want more of a tart flavor, then you can use like a green apple, or you can use a Gala apple. It's whatever your taste is for this. If you want to use pears, once I use pears instead of apples, that's kind of nice to kind of put like sliced pears on top, and all good.
Good idea, just the right amount.
I know, isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
I know. Well, I write just so you know, when I do write recipes, I actually test these things 3 to 5 times just to make sure that it comes out perfectly. I'm very like detailed about that because I want when you make it to go, oh my God, it worked, how great that is. Because you know what that's gonna do? That's gonna make you wanna cook more at home, and that just warms my heart. Okay, so I've got my apple layer on top, and we're gonna give it some final love by just putting some more cinnamon on top. Awesome, and a little brown sugar. And I was thinking today, I'll show you when it's done. Okay, now I want to tell you something else, because I thought of something else. Okay, and I'm going to take the remaining part of this butter and just kind of dot it. And then I've already preheated my oven to 350 degrees, and I'm going to cook this for I would set your timer for like 40 minutes and check. And I'm going to show you, I already made one so I can show you kind of what it looks like when it's done. So now I have 2 Kugels for the 2 of us. Oh my God, I better go for a big run tomorrow. Okay, so here it is. It's going to go in the oven like this, okay? And you're going to put it in the oven at 350 degrees for about 40 minutes. And the final product, by the power of smell-o-vision, is going to look like this. Hold on. Voila. So, this is what it looks like when it's done. And so what you want to do, you want to make sure that the apples are cooked so that they're kind of soft. And you also want to make sure that you're starting to see a little bit of crunch on the side, but you don't want to dry it out, because what you're probably going to do, if you're like me, you're going to make it and then the next day you may warm it up for company. So you want to make sure that it's ready, but not overly done. To heat it, because it doesn't have to really be in an oven, and I know when you're making a big Seder and a big Passover dinner, lots of things are going in your oven. You can. One of the things that I like to do is to cut it up in squares, and actually if you put a piece of parchment paper, wax paper over, you microwave it, because you're looking for it to be moist and delicious on the inside, and it's already kind of been pre-crisped by putting it in the oven for the first time. So that's another great tip, because between the tzimmus and your chicken or your turkey and all the other great things that you're making for Passover, this is one thing that you can warm up in a microwave, okay? So I hope this inspires you to make this for Passover. It's really delicious. Another option I just wanted to bring up, that if you wanted to do, is if you want to take this recipe but make it savory instead of sweet, you can take this recipe and then instead of you can substitute the apples for spinach or zucchini. And instead of the cinnamon, you can put in Italian seasoning and salt and pepper and make almost like a veggie matzo lasagna if you want to during the holiday as well. So just something to think about. So I hope this helped you out. I wish you all a joyous and a wonderful Pesach, great Passover. Big kisses to my Temple Shir Tikva community. Big kisses to all of my friends who are watching and listening. And I'm going to say goodbye to, bye Neil. I'm glad you love it. I'll bring you over a piece. And bye Alice, thanks for coming by. And thanks for coming by too, Selma. And I know Rabbi Danny, you're watching too. So enjoy, take care, and have a wonderful holiday. Bye-bye.